This is a rhythm practice session that introduces the 8th rest. By the way, you'll have the best success with this video if you've already tried reading quarter notes, eighth notes, and quarter rests in the 2 previous videos. In those videos, we learned that this symbol, the quarter rest, tells us to be silent for 1 whole beat. In this video, we're practicing the 8th rest, which means to be silent for half of a beat. And in this video, 2 eighth notes means 2 sounds on a beat, ta-di. An 8th rest is half a beat long, and it takes the place of 1 eighth note. In this case, the ta sound is replaced by a very quick silence, but still followed by di. So for example, instead of ta, 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 di, ta, we'll leave a short space on the 3rd beat, like this. Ta, ta, di, ta. There isn't really enough time for a shush sound on this rest. It'll work better to take a quick and gentle breath in the place of the 8th rest, like this. Ta, ta, di, ta. Make sure the remaining 8th note doesn't come in too late. It still needs to follow the steady beat. Just like the previous video, we'll do this in 2 rounds. In the first round, I'll say the rhythm, then you can say it back. Make sure you say it out loud, the skill will stick a lot better that way. You'll see a familiar rhythm from the first video, and then the same rhythm with an 8th note missing. Here we go. Repeat after me. 1, 2, me then you. Ta, 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 di, ta. Ta, ta, di, ta. Ta, ta, di, ta, di, ta. Ta, ta, di, ta. Ta, di, ta, di, ta. Ta, di, ta, ta, di, ta. Ta, di, ta, di, ta. Di, ta, ta, di, ta. Di, ta, di, ta. Ta, di, ta, di, ta, ta. Ta, di, ta, ta. Di, ta, di, ta, ta. Di, ta, ta. Ta, di, ta, di, ta, di, ta. Ta, di, ta, di, ta. Di, ta, di, ta. Ta, ta, di, ta, ta, di. Ta, ta, di, ta, di. Ta, di, ta, di. Ta, di, ta, ta, di. Okay, now it's your turn. You'll read the rhythms the first time, and then I'll read them back so you can check your work. If you don't think you're ready yet, you're always welcome to start the video from the beginning until you've got the hang of it. We'll only read the ones with 8 rests this time. Ready? 4, 3, you then me. Ta, ta, di, ta. Ta, ta, di, ta. Ta, di, ta, di, ta. Ta, di, ta, di, ta. Di, ta, ta, di, ta. Di, ta, di, ta. Ta, di, ta, ta. Di, ta, ta. Di, ta, ta. Ta, di, ta, ta. dee ta dee, dee ta. Ta ta dee ta dee. Ta dee ta dee. Ta dee ta ta dee. And that's how you read eighth rests, at least in 4/4 time. We'll see them again in a later video in 6/8 time. If you're up for a challenge, go to the YouTube settings icon at the bottom of the page and set the playback speed to 1.25, and it'll go a little faster. If you feel like you've mastered this exercise, move on to the next video. If you prefer a different counting system, you can check out the Gordon and count singing versions of this video on the same channel. Thanks for watching.